Do, 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 do. I don't know why I have the Pirates of the Caribbean theme song in my head. It's probably because I watched the first three movies in that whole thing with my kids just a week ago. By the way, it's on like Donkey Kong. Welcome to episode 7 of the Bunker Bash. Today is AMA Thursday. I just made that up yesterday, by the way. Today is AMA Thursday. What that means is Ask Me Anything. We're going to roll up our sleeves and have a good time today. And on the episode, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on what I'm calling the new expert economy. Listen, there is coming a time when cable news is like your local news. Does anybody watch the local news anymore? I was in my local news branch about 2 months ago, about a month and a half ago, talking about Iran. And I'll tell you what the producer inside that local news branch said to me. It was shocking, the revelation as to as to what she said. By the way, as you're just joining us, make sure that you jump into chat and say hello. I'd love to just welcome you into the community and highlight you as an amazing person. So chat's normally on the right or below. While you're moving your fingers on your screen, don't forget to push that like button. That does help promote this show on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. Sharing does as well. I just want to say hello to a couple folks who just joined us. My man, Jim House. Jim says, really loving these new shows. Ed Rush, only missed one so far. The good news is they're all recorded and you can catch up if you need to. And by the way, I replied to Jim, that's because you, sir, are the man. So you want to do an interview. By the way, I'd love to have you if you're listening, Jim, which it looks like you are. So let's talk about jumping on next week. For those of you who don't know, Jim House was one of the guys, one of my main man for helping me launch 21 Day Miracle. I'd love to share some stories next week about the creation of that book. I will tell you, it wouldn't have been the book it is. I've sold now almost 30,000 copies. Have generated an email list of over 6,000 people from this book. And a lot of it has to do with Jim and his expertise. I can be a little schizophrenic when I write. And Jim was the one that helped me knock it out of the park. Hello, Delisa Toole. Delisa from Ed Rush Central. Nice to see you again. She's here if you need any help. Dennis, what's up, my man? Says howdy. Hey, Robin Roberts. I think she said God, but I think what she meant was good. What's up, Kevin Bell? My favorite Facebook post so far. I gotta find that post, by the way, and read it. I'll do it on one of these shows. Robin says, good afternoon. Robin in Houston. What's up, Denise from Vancouver? Positive influence as always. I know, San Diego. David Zett says, what's up, San Diego without beaches? Yeah, they told us we couldn't go to the beach. I'm gonna show you a news story. I'm gonna already start laughing. In a minute, I'm gonna show you a news story out of Chicago that cracked me up. Aaron, what's up, my man from Dallas? Hello, Barry. I'm becoming a daily habit. Yeah, we're just trying to keep each other happy. Denise says, does anyone have the link for YouTube? Denise, go to edrush.com/bunkerbash. That'll take you right to my YouTube page. Thank you. Delisa just put that in there. Matt says, good morning, overcast, cold in Houston, working on 21 days without candy. I love it, man. Edwin says, go for it. Hey, Aubrey, how are you? Welcome to the show. All right, today we're going to roll up our sleeves and get serious about the expert economy. But before we get serious, I've got some funny, I thought were funny actually, little images and memes from across the internet. You know, one of the cool things about this virus, I never thought I would say that, by the way. I've never thought that I'd form the English sentence, one of the cool things about the virus. But one of the neat things is it showed us how interconnected we are. And it showed us in a lot of ways how much fun as a community of people we can actually have. And so every once in a while in these shows, you know, I jump in and show you some news stories or some things that I thought were particularly funny. And I want to share with you a few of those. So hang with me here for a second. I thought this one was good, by the way. This is a guy, he essentially, I guess he was just lonely. And so he started driving around. So last Saturday, we had been home for an entire week. I told my wife, let's just get in the car and let's go for a drive. So we just drove around. We actually went for a little bit of a walk. And I know how this guy feels because, you know, nobody's looking at you. They feel like we went for this walk and nobody would even look at us. And so this guy glued. That's good. That's a good technique. I want I'm going to dare you, one of you, don't use like industrial glue, maybe just some tape or something. Drive around with a coffee cup on your head. I thought this was good. Well, homeschooling is going well. 2 students suspended for fighting, and 1 teacher fired for drinking on the job. So we homeschool our kids here, and my wife and I were cracking up because there's a lot of people freaking out right now about something that we do. And when I say we, what I really mean is she. Okay, I'm like moral support sometimes. All right, so this one, I thought this guy was cool. This guy here, see this guy sitting in his office right here. So this little sign that he put out in front of his office, which I thought was pretty hysterical. I'm going to blow it up for you. It says, "Please do not enter the office. Please respect my personal space. Nothing to do with coronavirus. I'm just a miserable bastard." That guy, at least he's honest. I thought this one was pretty good too. This is from Lydia on Twitter. She said, "Me and my dad are sharing the dining room table working from home today. He's an aerospace engineer on a conference call ordering fuselage prototypes, and I'm drawing a duck." Did you ever feel like you were the person sitting at home drawing the duck? Sometimes I feel that way. By the way, this one resonated with me yet after yesterday. Remember, I talked in our economic disaster episode about the airline industry and how bad they are to you, except when they need money. I thought this one captured it. Melanie Schmidt says, "Airlines, $35 to put your bag on a plane. Airlines, $16 for a bag of chips. Airlines, sorry, you want your legs to fit? $75. Airlines, haha, you have to fork over an extra $50 to choose the seat you already paid for. Airlines, nothing. Airlines, oh, someone help us. We are out of monies." Yeah, sometimes it just feels like that. I just said, I hope at the very least United, is not going to charge me $200 to change my $150 ticket after this. All right, you got to look close at this one, but I thought this was hysterical. Makia says, "Day 6 of quarantine. The C-section went smooth. The cuties are in great shape." And the mother the mother is recovering. And look at the picture on the right. She she surgically removed each of the cuties. You can actually see the picture on the right. The little cutie oranges is sewn back up, and she's got all the little orange pieces all nicely wrapped up in their nice little cutie thing. I thought that was pretty funny. The local news, by the way, newspaper. I thought this was a great call on the part of the newspaper who just made their sports section one gigantic blank page. All right, so I'm going to get real here for a second, and I'm going to get serious because right now we are in the month of March 2020. And right now, people are facing the extreme situation of birthdays coming about. So, yesterday was a good friend of mine. His name is John. I'm going to show you him blowing out his birthday candles. And this Sunday, my son Jack, my 12-year-old, I said yesterday he's 13, but that's because he's just about 13. He's going to go into his teen years and he's going to celebrate his birthday. But his grandmother, great grandmother, won't be coming over. His other grandmother won't be coming over because we don't want to get anyone connected. And so he's going to celebrate his poor birthday all by himself. And I found this little piece of paper. This wasn't my son, but it was somebody that posted something online. This poor kid wrote, "To coronavirus." I'm going to try to do this without laughing. You destroyed my birthday. You are the F word." "To coronavirus, you destroyed my birthday." Looks exactly like the kind of thing my son would write. "To coronavirus, you destroyed my birthday. You are the F word." This is my buddy John. Let me see if I can pull this up. This is him blowing out his birthday candles yesterday. Let me see if I can get this to. Hold on a second. I got to show you this, but I got to get the actual video to show. So hang with me here. Here we go. Here it comes. I'm going to insert the. Here we go. All right, watch this. Dude's blowing out his birthday candles. That is That is my boy. Just a shout out to my boy, John Haley, who had his birthday yesterday and had to blow his birthday candles out like this because you're apparently not allowed to blow on a birthday cake anymore in coronavirus. All right, last thing I want to share really quickly from the news that I thought was pretty funny, and then we're going to get into our teaching and training content today, which is about the new economy that is emerging. And I'm going to get to your comments in chat in just a second. But before I do that, let me take you to the news. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, by the way, update from Tom Hanks. Tom says 2 weeks after our first symptoms and we feel better, sheltering in place works. You don't give it to anyone, you don't get it to anyone. Common sense. So I remember I said I was interested in finding out what was happening to all the celebrities that we heard about who got this thing. It looks like Tom Hanks is doing okay. I said this the other day, but I think the actual metric that we should be interested in, not that we don't care about all of the people who are passing away, but the real metric we should be interested in are what are the healthy people? What's happening to the healthy people? All right. And so I thought this was interesting. So the news article is Chicago cracks down over coronavirus, tells residents do not go on long runs or bike rides. This is like not a fake news story. This is real. The mayor Lightfoot of Chicago said, look, be smart. Not only will our police be deployed to shut down, if you're not abiding by these orders, we'll be forced to shut down the parks and the lakefronts. You cannot go on long bike rides. You must abide by this order. Outside is for a brief respite, not 5Ks. So let me just make sure I got this clear. You're allowed to go for walks, but you're not allowed to go for a long walk. You're allowed to go for bike rides, but you're not allowed to go for a long bike ride. And you're allowed to go for runs in Chicago, but you're not allowed to go for long runs in Chicago. And she said, I'm being serious about this. The police will cite anyone who is going on long runs. And if you don't comply with our order, you have the risk of potentially being incarcerated for going for a long run. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. I don't run. I'm not kidding you. I think the last time I actually went for a run was 5 years ago. Now, when I was in the Marine Corps, I used to run a lot. I used to run, in fact, I could do a 3 miles in less than 18 minutes. That's moving, okay? That's 3 subsequent more than 6-minute miles. But when I got out of the Marines, I basically stopped running. And to make it worse, about 5 years ago, I read an article that said statistically showed that men's estrogen level grows as they run more. And I'm like, that's it, I'm out. So look, I know we're gender trying to be, gender neutral or whatever in the world, but I don't want more of that. So I'm like, I work out, I move, but I do not run. So for me, a long run is literally like the first 5 steps of the run. Okay. Now, for a ultra marathoner, I know some of these guys, they go like, 100 miles. For an ultra marathoner, a short run is like 10 miles. So I'm just telling you, as the mayor of Chicago, you can't just say long and short. It doesn't work. Okay. Your interpretation, the police's interpretation, the runner's interpretation. All right. Not to mention the fact that the running, like, come on, the running is actually, you're out in fresh air. It's pretty good for you. Anyway, my family and I are going on a hike a little bit later today in fresh air, and we're going to have some fun. All right. So just want to say hello to a couple of folks that just joined us in chat, and then we're going to get to the actual look, so there's a book. There's a book by this speaker that I know. His name is Larry Wingert, and the book is called "People Are Idiots, and I Can Prove It." That's all I have to say about that. What's up, Gina Longo? Hello again. Robin says, physically distanced, but socially connected. That's exactly right. Celie, what's up? She said, I saw that too. Robin says, I'm almost in tears. I tell you, I've had more in the last week, actual LOL moments where I literally actually laughed out loud. I did like Mike, as that was the one that was the cuties. I'll show that again in a second. Gina, oh, today's your sister's birthday. Dang. Diana says, love getting everyone together. I do too. I've been fascinated to see who steps up during this time. Yeah, no joke. She said she's gonna make a video about it, Denise. Chicago. This is Bart, says Chicago. Welcome to look. one of these days I'm going to do my thing on socialism. But I will tell you that on paper, socialism is like an amazing idea. We all share everything and we all participate. The problem with socialism is anytime that you have more than one level, like for example, the socialists in Israel, the kibbutzes, the little communities, work great because there's no bureaucratic level. But then the problem is you get more people involved and you end up with bureaucracy, everything goes to the top. So a socialist is like the best way I could describe a socialist is it's your college roommate that ate all of your ramen noodles and then was pissed because they were all gone. Okay. So it fundamentally in big organizations, that system doesn't work. But yes, Chicago, welcome. Welcome. Jim says he's in. I love it, man. Yes, lift weights, push sleds, throw some heavy stuff. You're golden. Oh, Celie says the nail salons are there and then hair and nail salons. It's about to get ugly out there. That's funny. That is a double meaning. I like that. Let's see. And Aubrey asked a question about how I'm streaming this. By the way, Aubrey, I will be ready to go full up and tell you about every bit of this piece of gear that I'm using. But I just want to make sure that what I'm giving you is exactly the right stuff. Okay. So email me and I will tell you the software that I'm using, but I'm just not ready to go perfectly public about it just yet. Because I want to make sure before I recommend something, I want to test it and try it out and get all the way down to the bottom of it. And I've been learning some more of the features going around with this as well. All right, so let's get serious about the business of getting better. And by the way, I just want to honor you. Some days I send out the email telling everybody about the show, and some days I don't. Today was one of the days that I didn't. So this is a choose your own adventure day. To get to this show, by the way, we do the show every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right now during our lockdown at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. So streaming live every single weekday. And some days I send an email out that says, hey, here's the link. And some days I don't. And today was one of the days that I didn't. So tomorrow, I'm going to have a friend of mine on named Perry Marshall, who's a good friend of mine, probably one of the smartest people I know. And we're going to talk about the evolution of cultures and how it affects your business to see where things are going in the future. And I don't know anybody better than Perry that has an eye on the future. And we're going to have an amazing conversation. I will send an email out about that, but I didn't today. What that means is that you had to figure out how to get here. I just want to honor you for doing that. I'm always interested to see, like who's got the gumption, the gusto to be able to make it. And this show streams on Facebook and also on YouTube Live, but also on Twitter. So it's on all three of the social platforms that you have access to. But sometimes you got to kind of look a little bit to find it. So you are amazing for being here live. And if you're not, you're still amazing. I just think you're incredible too. All right. So thank you for being here live. Now, tomorrow's show, I'm going to be interviewing Perry Marshall. See that pen inside that book called Evolution 2.0 right there? There's a pen inside of all of the books that I am like really, really into. And I will tell you that this is a dog-eared book. I've got notes and I've been through this book now twice. This is one of the best scientific books that I've ever read that's accessible to people like us. And Perry Marshall is a marketer. He's the author of 80/20 Marketing. He's the author of the Ultimate Guide to Google AdWords, one of the most brilliant marketers I know. But he's wrote this book several years ago called Evolution 2.0, Breaking the Deadlock Between Darwin and Design. And this, John, 80/20 Perry. This book, from a marketer's standpoint, is brilliant because it helps you understand how the world was designed. And I will tell you that the scientific community is getting behind Perry right now. And tomorrow we're going to do an interview, not only to talk about his book, but he's got some pretty cool thoughts about what's happening with our current situation as well. Okay. So yes, Michael. Hey, what's up, Michael Fortin? Good to see you, man. Perry is a good guy. And Jim says, Perry's amazing. 80/20 sales is one of the best ever read. Yeah, come to tomorrow's show. By the way, I do want to shout out my friend Michael, who just joined us. Michael Fortin, who's watching right now on Facebook, one of the best copywriters I know. And I used to read Michael's stuff way back in the day. I know you're working with some friends of mine up in Nevada. So cheers to you, my friend. And Robert said, made it today because you showed Facebook site on yesterday's show. Okay, so good. I'm glad you made it in the way that you wanted to. All right, so homebrew. I'm going to tell you where I get this stuff from. Rock Creek Coffee, by the way. I think they gave me some sort of a coupon code. All right, now, I'll tell you all that stuff a little bit later. Let's get cranking into today. And I've got another book that I want to share with you in a moment. But let's just say this. The economy in the United States of America is changed forever. The economy in the world is changed forever. It was already heading in this direction before coronavirus hit. The coronavirus is really like the World War II moment, or the cataclysmic moment that is shifting everything. So here's what I mean by World War II moment. The United States as a nation was really not the global superpower that we were until after World War II. Now, we were heading in that direction, and it was inevitable that as a nation, because of our geography mostly, but also because of the nature of our government and the free market system that we have inside of the United States, we were growing into the place of being a superpower in the world. But what happened during World War II was two main things. First of all, the European and the Asian powers were completely decimated militarily while their economies were decimated at the same time. And we in the United States had a beautiful situation because we were geographically isolated from Asia, even though we were militarily involved, and we were geographically isolated from Europe, even though we were militarily involved. And so we essentially emerged out of World War II with the only Navy in the world, really. And so what we did, whether for good or for bad, is we brought the world together at a place called Bretton Woods. And at Bretton Woods, we brought the world together, and the world was expecting what superpowers always do, which is to say, hey, we're in charge of everything. And actually, we didn't say we were in charge. We simply said, we've got the Navy. And so here's what we're willing to do. We're willing to protect the world in exchange for nothing more than we would like to be able to trade freely with you. Now, there was more to Bretton Woods than just what I described, but what came out of that is that the world's currencies began to be based upon the US dollar. So, for example, if China wants to trade with Brazil, Brazil will change their money into dollars. China will change their monies into dollars. They will exchange, and then they will have their money come back into them in their own currency. And so, because we became the world leader defense-wise, we also became the world leader economic-wise. And I'm not saying that was good, and I'm not saying that was bad. What I am saying is that in 1945, the world accelerated its shift that was already occurring. We in the United States were already becoming a global superpower. It's just that World War II accelerated that because it changed so quickly world economies. And I'm here to tell you that what's happening in the world right now has served as an accelerator for the economy that was already happening. It's really important that you understand that it was heading in this direction. It wasn't like this changed it. It simply just accelerated the change. And yesterday on the show, I talked about one of the deleterious changes, which was our global government coming together and saying we have to fix something that fundamentally they're going to have a hard time or almost impossible fixing. It's that do something economy. The second deleterious effect would be what happens to personal freedoms. And we've talked about that in the past. We'll talk about that in the future. One of the good effects, however, is the change to the global economy into what I'm beginning to call the new expert economy. So let me kind of give you some historical reference to show you where this is happening. And then what I'm going to do during our time today is show you within a few minutes the things that you can do to put yourself in what I'm calling a toll booth position. I learned that actually originally from Dan Kennedy, where people are now coming through you in order to get the results that they want. In fact, it's a position that you want to be in. Okay, so I want to take you back in time. Let's go back maybe 10 or 20 years. It used to be about 20 years ago that Americans, let's just talk about the United States, Americans got their news by tuning in into their nightly news. So you had ABC, NBC, and CBS, which were essentially the toll booth for America. In fact, that was such a coveted position that during Vietnam War, it was Nixon who said, if I have lost Tom, or sorry, if I've lost Henry Kissinger, who is the news? Walter Cronkite. He said, if I'd lost, it's like, this is what happens when you go off your notes. Okay, this whole last 5 minutes is completely off my notes. Well, he said, if I lost Walter Cronkite, I've lost the nation. And the reason that he said that is because those news agencies had what is called a toll booth position. people had to come through them to be able to understand the news. Now, what happened after that is the news toll booth began to get disseminated down to the local level. And so people used to tune in to their local news. So, for example, I remember when growing up watching ABC News, okay, watching the main ABC News with Tom Brokaw, and then I would watch my local news. This is how my parents got their information. So what you started to see in about the 80s and moving especially into the 90s during the internet is what you saw was the shift over to cable. And so now cable news agencies started to have that toll booth position, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and organizations like that. What happened, however, in the 90s and into the 2000s is as those organizations began to move towards the polls. So originally you had essentially news agencies bouncing back and forth in the middle because you had governmental as a nation, right and left, we were actually a lot closer. And so, for example, in our country 20 years ago, the most liberal Republican was far more liberal than the most conservative Democrat. Those lines actually were blurred and had come together, and now they completely separated. Now, what happened at cable news is those things began to separate too. So CNN started going to the left, and Fox News, as you know, started going to the right, and those things started to separate. Okay, and as those things started to separate, what ended up happening is America's trust in those news agencies began to deteriorate. The last 4 years accelerated that deterioration to the point at which it's pretty much commonly accepted amongst the average American that you can't trust cable news. And so what happened is people started going online to news aggregators or news services in order to get their information and in order to get their understanding. And so you had websites like, for example, Drudge Report or Huffington Post, which were right and left, admittedly, but they were news aggregators. And those essentially served as a place where Americans, depending on their leaning, would go to find out more about their news. And so think about the trajectory. First, you had the central news where everyone turned to and trusted Walter Cronkite. Then you had this separated into these cable news. And then all of a sudden you started having these separated into multiple websites that people started to go to. And the last layer of that is that people started to go to people. And the reason that people started to go to people for their news is because they weren't sure in all of the mess what was true, what was false, what was right, and what was wrong. Nowadays, you have thousands of news aggregator websites that you can go to try to figure out the news. But what happens is in a world, see, it was easy when all you had to do was tune in and watch and see what Walter Cronkite said. It was very simple then because you would simply listen to Walter, listen to what he said, and you were able to easily form your opinions based on what was being told you. But as that began to split and separate and split and separate and multiply, and now there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon hundreds of thousands, it became difficult for the average American to try to figure out how can we understand what's being presented to us. Now, there was one additional effect that happened online that made this even more difficult. And by the way, if you're interested in a good tome on this, there's a book called Trust Me, I'm Lying. It's by a guy named Ryan Holiday. The subtitle is Confessions of a Media Manipulator. This book, by the way, is not for the faint of heart, okay? But in this book, what he describes is this movement online with these online news agencies where they realized that the commodity that got them ad revenue was impressions. In other words, eyeballs. So they turned their entire focus to attracting someone's eyeballs. That's why you see these advertisements online that says like, you won't believe what the celebrity looked like when she was 15, or, it's like designed to get you, it's called clickbait. It's designed to get you to click. So now we have thousands and thousands and thousands. And so what happened is the average American, and I'm talking about America, but of course I'm talking about the global economy, but I'm talking about what's happening right here. The average American, in the face of thousands of ideas being presented to them all at once, decided, I need someone to be able to sift and sort the understanding of this and tell me what to think. And this has now happened over the last, say, maybe 5 to 7 years, where what you see, and this is, by the way, the true use of this word. You'll hear people talk about influencers. And when they talk about influencers, most of the time they're talking about some 20-year-old who's jumping off cliffs in Bali. Okay, I'm not talking about that kind of influencer. I'm talking about a person that people go to try to help them understand the world that they're in. It's a natural thing to do. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm saying it's a natural thing. We as human beings have been doing this our whole history, all the way back to the beginning when cavemen and women used to sit around and try to figure out like what was happening with the group next door. There was always someone who would help them understand those things. But what's happened is as it spread out, it actually began to come together. And I can guarantee you that there's maybe one or two people that you look to on Twitter or Facebook or maybe YouTube Live to help you understand things a little bit better. And the truth is, the same is true for me, and the same is true for almost everyone. Now, the quality of the person that you're listening to or understanding and the amount actually has to do with the way that you believe in certain things. And welcome to the expert economy. This is where we are, and this is the direction that we're going. So my recommendation to you, and I'm going to show you some ideas on how to do this, but my recommendation to you is very simple. You are a person who has a story, an experience, an expertise. You're a person who has the ability to speak with a level of authority on a particular topic. If, as you're watching me right now, you think to yourself, well, maybe I don't, maybe I'm not worthy of speaking on that topic, let me just look you in the eye and tell you, you do. Okay, you do. I've had now over 440 one-on-one coaching and consulting members who have come to me and paid me very well for advice. I can tell you with full integrity that exactly 0 of them were thinking of themselves more highly than they ought to have. They were always downselling their information. They were always downselling their expertise. They were always downselling who they were. And if you want a little bit of a deeper discussion of this, I'll send you in 2 directions. Number 1, go back to my interview with Michael Haig, where we talked about the way that we view ourselves, and then go forward, because next week, I already talked to Michael. I'm going to bring Michael back, and we're going to talk more in depth about the way entrepreneurs see themselves, because the way you see yourself is key. You have to understand that you are the kind of person that people should be coming to for ideas and information on specific topics. Okay. And I'm looking through the list of people that are here already on this show. And I can tell you, I already know, like, for example, Jim House, who I already talked about, is amazing at helping people get their message out. Michael Fortin, who I already mentioned, is incredible at being able to help someone better market their business, right? You've got folks here like my man. What's up, JD Krause? JD Krause has been effective at helping people grow their business. Okay. And so, and I could go on and on and on. Like, for example, where are you? Hang on. I'm going to find Denise. There you are. Denise, who I already said sent me this really beautiful email, has this incredible TED talk about resiliency and coming back from a really difficult part in her life. You deserve to be out there, and it's my job to help to push you just a little bit so that you can find yourself in this expert economy. And I'll tell you, if you don't do it, people will be misserved. They're going to go to the Kardashians, or they're going to go to somebody who's going to lead them astray. Okay. And there's a couple tips for doing that. You need to obviously have good information that can help people, but at the same time, you need to be entertaining enough to be able to get their attention and tell great stories. That's one of the reasons why Michael and I did our discussion the other day. Okay. So from a basis, I'm going to jump up here on the board. Thank you. Silly says 100%. We do not give ourselves enough credit. And by the way, it's always the good people. It's always the good people. The bad people don't hold themselves back. Think about how weird that is. The bad people who have bad missions and bad goals are the ones who are out there with no qualms. And it's the good people that are always holding yourself back. What's up with that? So like, when would now be a really good time to like get yourself out there, right? And push yourself into the world. All right. So thank you, Jim, for the comment. Your evolution of the expert economy was clearly portrayed. Appreciate that, buddy. All right, so I'm going to jump up on the board real quick, and I'm going to show you some ways. And by the way, some of these you're already aware of, right? And some of them you might not be, but I'm going to show you kind of the basic plan, and then I'm going to show you a little bit more of the advanced plan when it comes to personal branding and putting yourself out into the expert economy. Okay. Now, full disclosure, a conversation about your niche goes into this, but I'm not going to do that conversation on that niche because I did that in a previous episode. I'm pretty sure it was episode number 2. So if you want to go back, maybe it was 3, but if you want to go back into finding your niche, go back into that episode and we'll try to find a link to that as we go. Okay, now a couple of the I would just call this the basics. Okay, so we're talking about the new emerging expert economy. By the way, if you just joined us, my name is Ed Rush, 5-time #1 best-selling author. We're talking about the new economy that's emerging in the world and how you, as a thought leader, can leverage that to really help people. Okay, and then by the way, one of the people you can help is you. Okay, and so we talk about the expert economy, and let's just talk about some of the basics. Okay, the basics start with, but don't end with this. I'm going to start with this right here. Okay, it starts with things like your brand. Okay, when I talk about your brand, I'm talking about, like the look and the feel and the font and the colors. But deeper, what I'm actually talking about is who are you in the marketplace? Who do you represent? What is the topic or grouping of topics that you help people with? So for example, if you are currently like a naturopathic doctor or a medical doctor and you're connected to me and you're a coaching member of mine, I can guarantee you I'm introducing you to my media guy because the media wants to talk to people right now about how people can boost their immune system, how they can be healthier, how they can feel healthier. Okay. So the first question is, who are you? Now, it doesn't have to be like this succinct individual thing, although that can help. I just told you a story about Perry Marshall, who's one of the best marketers I know. He does AdWords, Facebook, 80-20 kind of marketing, and he's also has Evolution 2.0. So it doesn't have to be super tight grouping, but as a person, the question is who you are. Okay. The second question underneath who is who you target. Okay. So and I should just say this. Sometimes people don't like that word. Okay. I love it. I look, a fighter pilot, targets, we like each other. All right. So for at least a short period of time until it goes away. And some people have asked me, I'll tell you really quickly. Some people have said, how do you fly the F-18? I said, look, I can tell you how to fly the F-18 in 3 sentences. So I'm going to give it to you. And here it goes. When you push the stick forward, the houses get bigger. When you pull the stick back, the houses get smaller. And when you push the little red button on the stick, all the houses go away. Okay, that's all you need to know about flying the F-18. All right. By the way, I used to do that when I spoke at events, and I did that at one event. And this person came up to me afterwards, and she said, really, I got really offended when you said the F-18 thing. I felt like you were being very aggressive. So one person, literally, I probably said that. I probably done that in front of 50,000 people. One person. So you can't please everybody. All right. So, and by the way, that's a joke. Okay. So first question is who you are. Second question is who your target. Those are the basics. Okay. And I talked a little bit about in a previous episode, I think it was episode number 2, I talked about finding and targeting your perfect niche. And it has to do with who they are and where they are and what they want, if you remember those 3 questions. Okay. But the second part of brand comes down to how that's being represented. And I'm specifically going to talk about online things. Okay. So for example, your website. Okay. When people come to your website, what's the impression about you that they get? What is it that they feel that you are equipped to help them with? Okay. So what is that happens when someone hits you online? A second one that comes right along with that is your social media. Okay. And typically with the folks that I work with, so I am personally on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. Those are my primary, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I do Instagram. It's not big for me from a business perspective. I will tell you that Twitter, I think, is perfectly meaningless for just about everything except for doing news, which is the reason why I do Twitter, okay? Because I do quite a bit of news on radio and TV if it wasn't for the news. So I'll tell you, I had, so a year and a half ago when I started doing actual news interviews, I had 180,000 people on Facebook. I had 80,000 people on Instagram. I had over 10,000 people on LinkedIn, which is a lot on LinkedIn. And I had about 250 on Twitter. That was the disparity. And I was on a news show, and the news guy said, "Hey, why don't you have more people on Twitter?" And I said, Twitter is meaningless to me for a business. And by the way, it pretty much is. But that question, he said, when he said, "Why don't you have more people on Twitter?" It made me realize, okay, so if I'm going to be doing media, I need to move the number on Twitter. So at this point, I think I'm over 4,500 people now on Twitter because it was important to grow that simply for brand management. Okay, so when it comes to social, what I typically recommend, and we're not going to go too deep on social media today, what I typically recommend is pick one and go deep on the one that's most appropriate for your market. So for example, I had one of my clients came to me and they work primarily with business owners, entrepreneurs of businesses that have a valuation of $10 million or more who are looking to package and sell their business. And this client that I work with in my coaching program for a full year, this client was in the business of attracting them so that he could help them package their business. And then this client of mine had a list of about 4,000 private equity groups and investor groups that bought businesses. And so he was able to put together the business and the buyer. And his pricing, by the way, he would charge $25,000 to work with the business, plus he would get a percentage of the transaction. This client came to me and said, what we really want to do, Ed, is we want to create a Facebook funnel where these business owners can go on Facebook, see a post, watch a video, watch a webinar, and then sign up for our $25,000 thing. And as you might imagine, I said, well, that's great. I would personally like to have a pet unicorn that would fly and shoot rainbows and gold bricks out of its behind every 5 minutes. I said, just because you won something doesn't necessarily mean it can work or it's real. What I said was build that thing, but do it over on LinkedIn. Because on LinkedIn, you can target the actual business owner by the job title. And the job title you're looking for is CEO. Not to mention the fact that you can get a direct mail list. Like you can find a list. I just pulled this list, by the way. I pulled a list of 50 miles in a circle around Dallas, CEOs or company founders with businesses of $500,000 revenues up to $10 million. There were almost 5,000 of them, by the way. Okay. So when you're looking at social, usually what I recommend is pick one, okay, and go as deep as possible on that one. Now, for you, that might be Instagram. For you, that might be Facebook. For you, that might be Twitter. Now, on my social media, I'm working simultaneously on all those. But as you know, from what you heard from me yesterday, I'm trying to build a global brand so that we can change the world. So it's important to spread a little wider on that one, but pick one and go deep, okay? Another one that would be really important for you, and if you've got it, great. If it's not working for you, then get another one, is a book, okay? And the reason I'm mentioning a book right now is like an amazing time to like get it done. You got all this time, so sit down and get this book done. And I'm telling you, this book right here has done 21 Day Miracle, baby. This book has done a lot of good for me in my business. And one of the biggest things is it's drawn new people to me through lead generation. And by the way, when we do, it may be next week, by the way, I'm going to do a whole show on book creation and book promotion. And I'm going to tell you a super awesome insider secret that nobody does on how you can secretly embed a link into Amazon, into your page on Amazon, so that you can generate leads right off of Amazon.com. Okay, I'm gonna give you those. So this is sort of the brand. Okay, this is sort of the brand basics. All right, now I'm gonna go just a little bit deeper on just a small couple little advanced things. But when it comes to the expert economy, these are kind of the main things that you need to have in place. Okay, you have to understand who you are. And by the way, if you need help with this, get help with it. Sometimes it's important to come in and do a coaching day. Like this is what I do with my clients. Sometimes the first things that we do is sort of build things from the ground up. So if you need help, then get help. Okay. So who is who you are, who you target, your main site, your social, and then your book. Okay. Now, I'm going to pause for just a second and just say this. I did say today was AMA Thursday and that you could ask me anything. So in a minute, I'm going to jump back down. I'm going to sit back on my chair and I'm going to answer some of the questions that you have. And so put questions in there. Do me a favor, format it like this. Just write the word question and then like a little semicolon and then write the question. That way I can see that you're actually asking me a question, because some of you are making comments, which is awesome. Comment. Okay, I just want to make sure that I get to the question. So you can ask me questions about anything you want, the nation, the coronavirus, my shirt, what kind of coffee I'm drinking. Man, I have this new drink. Oh man, I got one of these days, probably next week, I'm going to interview this guy. I have this new drink. It's molecular hydrogen. Woo, baby, come on. Let me tell you, there's a lot of scientific studies about molecular hydrogen right now. If you want to, I wasn't planning on doing this, but if you want to check it out, Delisa, if you can put in the chat, I'll type it in there too. It's H2, the letter H, the word 2, the word BEV, like h2bev.com. And I'll show you the product in a second. I'll grab it. It's called Hydro Shot, and use the coupon code EdRush. You'll get 10% off. All right. Full disclosure, that's a company that I'm looking at investing in. I haven't, but by the time you watch this video, if you're watching it on video, I may have already. Okay. So now more advanced. So a little bit more advanced, and then I'm going to take your questions. Okay. And then again, we're going to keep talking about this stuff over the next week or two as we continue on these little shows. Okay. So the more advanced stuff, in addition to target market, okay, is generating your revenue side or your deal side. Okay. So a lot of times people will come to me and they'll go, hey, Ed, I'm going to build this funnel and I'm going to have this webinar and I'm going to have this product and I'm going to have this. And I go, look, if you're just starting out in a market, or you're just looking to target a market, or you're just looking to just make some money right now, one of the fastest ways that you can do it is to simply attract people by the ones who can work with you one-on-one so that you can help them achieve their goals. This benefits two people. Number one, it benefits your target market who's initially coming to you in smaller numbers, then eventually they're coming to you in larger numbers. And the way that you market to larger numbers, significantly different than the way that you market to smaller numbers. So let's say, for example, you do a podcast with someone and you generate 100 leads. If you take that 100 leads and you have them sign up for a webinar, about 15 of them are going to sign up. And about 5 of them are going to show up, and maybe 1 at the end will buy your product, but probably not. Okay. So it's really likely with the numbers of economies of scale that you're going to end up with 0. But if you reach out to the 100 and you see who might want to do a strategy session or a complimentary call, you're probably going to get about 20 of those. And of the 20, you can end up with 2 to 4 clients who could maybe pay you $3,000 to $5,000 to work with them one-on-one to solve the problem. Okay. And this is why I like the idea of doing the consulting or the advising model first in a business. It's a little bit more in-depth time commitment for you. But what happens is through the conversations, both on the deal side and on the delivery side, through those conversations, what ends up happening is you become an expert at understanding what your market wants. And that's the most important word, what they want. It's a way to get paid to do research, okay? And I have helped, at this point, it's hundreds of people make money in this business. Some of them are on chat right now, by the way. And it's probably tens of thousands who have learned from me digitally. I have a product right now online. It's called the Strategic Advisor. That product is the 4th iteration of a consulting product that I've created. It first started out as training courses, and then it turned into a program called Consult and Profit, which doesn't exist anymore. And finally, it turned into a program called the Strategic Advisor. Strategic Advisor is how to get paid for your knowledge, time, expertise, and story, and how to deliver on both of those things. And by the way, if you're interested in that product, it is online. I think the price tag online is $9.97. If you want that product, you email me and I will give you a good deal, at least 50% off. Just so you know, I'm just making deals right now in this time to help as many people as I can. Okay. So one of them is a deal which comes down to Two things, and then I'm going to wrap it up and get to your questions, okay? These deals come down to your positioning in the marketplace and your pricing, okay? So it's how you position and how you price. And I've got 6 pricing models. We'll do that in a future show. But a lot of it has to do with how you're positioned in the marketplace. Now, check this out. How you're positioned in the marketplace goes back to site, social, book, the things that I said about your brand, right? Because listen, when people, and look, you don't have to do a book to do a deal, but it definitely helps because it cuts through that whole thing where people are like, does the person really know what they're talking about? Okay. So that's some basics, some basics and then some advanced stuff on both of those things. I'm going to jump back onto, hang on a second, wrong one. I'm going to jump back onto main screen real quick. And I'm going to jump into your questions. By the way, thank you. Y'all are amazing. Oh, so here's the website. I know I did a really quick little pitch on that. Here's the website. It's h2bev.com and use coupon code EdRush. I'll do more on this product, by the way. I am been blown away by that. And that is, by the way, EdRush gets you 10% off. That is an affiliate link, just so you know. But you can't get 10% off without me. All right, so do that. I tell you, it's crazy. All right, so I'm going to do some questions. Let's see, Dennis. As a speaker, when an event planner is going to look me up in addition to my website, where do you think they're likely to look? Facebook, LinkedIn. Dennis, awesome question. And by the way, I know, Dennis, you are registered for the Ultimate Speaker, so we are going to go a little deeper on the meeting planner stuff and Ultimate Speaker. So websites first. A lot of the meeting planners go to a website called eSpeakers. My affiliate link for that, by the way, is edrush.com/eSpeakers. And usually what I just do is post my pictures, my topics, and my speech video there if I have it, or if you have it. And then the other likely places are either LinkedIn or Facebook. But Dennis, they're probably going to Google you, and whichever one of those shows up is what they're going to show up. So take a look at what happens when someone types your name. It could be someone else. What's more likely is, oh, Denise, thank you for that. she said you have more than 5,500 on Twitter. Thank you. Sometimes I'm not paying attention to that. I am, but I'm not. All right, so back to this. Look at what happens when they search your name, Dennis Bauer, but also look what happens when they search your name plus the word speaker. So Dennis Bauer plus speaker, because it's more likely to show up to you that way. All right, so let's get to the other questions. I had to go on those social sites. By the way, I want to say hello to Andy Falco. Andy is the guy that got me going on this streaming service that I'm going to tell you about when I get it all figured out. So Andy, thank you for that. He's been super helpful. And by the way, this kind of stuff here, see the little brandy things that I've been putting down here? Undersecretary to the undersecretary. I don't know why I thought that was funny. Andy helped me with that too. So thank you, dude. That was really nice of you to help me. Aaron Miller, my man from Dallas, estate planning attorney, says, does the U.S. flag behind you have any special significance? Awesome, dude. Thank you for that. It's the first time anyone's ever asked me that question. And I will tell you that flag right there, I flew on a mission over Iraq. And I have about 8 more of those flags, maybe 10. Just so you know, last Ultimate Speaker event, I gave away one of the flags that I flew over Iraq back in 2005. My daughter was 4 months old at the time when I was deployed over there on July 2005, the mission that I flew. And I've got about 10 of those flags left. And I'll bring one of those to Dallas, and I'll give another one of them away. Okay. So if you're not registered for the Ultimate Speaker, here, let me find the little thing. If you're not registered for the Ultimate Speaker, remember I told you about the lower banners. It's theultimatespeaker.com. By the way, when you get there, use this coupon code. Use coupon code DISCOUNT, DICOUNT, and you'll get $100 off. Okay. Good. Thank you for that. Yeah, the website is h2bev.com and use the coupon code EdRush. All right. This is the other one, edrush.com/eSpeakers. Supposedly that's an affiliate link. I've literally never seen a check from them, so maybe it's not. Andy says, what should people do with the thousands of dollars the government is giving them? By the way, I did this whole thing on the government spending thing. I have no problem with the government giving all that money back. The amount of money they've taken, I'll take the check. So first of all, Andy, take the check and put it in the bank. So take it. Take the money, okay? It's your money anyway. You already gave it to them. I mentioned this yesterday, but I would do a few things. First of all, I would invest in yourself. Number two, I would invest in small businesses. I'm looking right now for small, agile, growing businesses to invest my personal money into as an investor advisor. And I'm looking to take businesses from 500,000, million to $3 million in sales, up to $10 million in sales, all the way to 100 million and sell. Okay. So it's very, very good. Good question. Jim House, I have now scheduled my first virtual book planning days for new clients. Any suggestions for maximizing the virtual environment? You know what it's like to work and meet in person, man. So thank you for that. By the way, I did a day with Jim. I can't remember what your day is called. I know you're branded as the book carver, but it was essentially a brainstorming day with Jim, and it was really, really good, really good. So now that you're doing these days virtual, Jim, the thing that I would just do, and I usually do this with my clients, is I just say, look, I say it almost exactly like this. I go, look, I don't know a single entrepreneur who can be on their computer and not look at email or not look at social media, but I'm going to challenge you during our time together to focus only on me and you and what we're trying to solve. And our agreement together is that when I'm looking into the Zoom and you're looking back, you're focused only on me. Now we can take some breaks if you need to take a little break to look at stuff. But when we're together, our agreement together is that the only window that's open on your computer is this one, and the only window that's open on my computer is that one as well. Okay, so that's really good. I like that. Thanks, buddy. And Aubrey asked a question about the ultimate speaker. So Aubrey, I'm just waiting right now to see. There's a lot happening right now in the world when it comes to, like, there's legit belief amongst quite a few people that we're going to be out of this whole thing in like 2 weeks, and literally moving back into the business world. And if that happens, I might end up actually accelerating our training schedule for Ultimate Speaker, because I want to get you trained and out into the world doing really good. And if it's not, so right now I'm just kind of waiting to see where the dust settles. And by the way, a lot of you have emailed me the dates that work or don't work for you, so I appreciate that. All right. Let's see, what's the Instagram that you just put in there? I don't know what that post is. Jim House says, thanks, man. You're the best, dude. All right, I got time for maybe one or two more questions. If you want to do it, you got to get it in, though. Put your questions in. Let me make sure I haven't missed anybody so far. All right, so I'm going to do a quick wrap up. As I'm wrapping up, if you have questions, post them in the chat. Andy, I said questions, not suggestions, Falco. So he said, suggestion, your wife should live stream her homeschooling so other parents can follow what she's doing. This may help parents, especially single dads who've never homeschooled. Look, by the way, my wife has, like, at one point she built this big following, and at one point she had about 500,000 people that were following her online, which was, so you all know I'm kind of like the marketing guy, right? So she never wanted to market anything to her people, which for about 1.5 years drove me crazy until I just let it go. Okay, so I don't give my wife business advice. I know that I should. She told me the other day, she goes, one of these bunker bashes, you should just have all your kids with you because all these other people are streaming from home with their kids. And I'm like, yeah, maybe not. I don't know if you know my kids and what they'll do if I put them in front of everybody. I missed some questions. All right, Gina, let me hang on. Let me go up here. I'm gonna get there. Do me a favor, Gina. Put your question back in there. So I want to make sure, because I'm not finding your question, but I want to make sure. Target. Barber said, what about multiple bogeys? And I can't hit either one. Well, I have a rule that goes, love the one you're with, man. So if you got a market that's starting to, Right now, I've got naturopathic doctors and regenerative medicine doctors that all of a sudden I'm getting a whole bunch of those folks that are coming to my event. I'm creating new content just for them right now. All right, so I want to make sure I didn't miss. I got to do your question. Oh, here it is. Thank you. Okay, David Zetz. When you're talking about the national debt, why did you not mention GDP as one of the variables? Thank you, David Zetz. So probably one of the better ways to um, qualify or calculate national debt is as a function or a percentage of GDP, which is called gross domestic product. David, the main reason I didn't do it yesterday is because I had way too much to talk about and way too little time to do it. And so what I was trying to do yesterday was essentially simplify the equation as much as possible. Just so you know, by the way, the current stimulus package is about 30% of our GDP or our gross domestic product, to show you how big that entire thing is. Okay, so so national debt as a function of GDP is probably a more accurate measure. The only problem with that is, for example, right now our GDP is going down because of the fact that not as many people are working. Okay, but yes, good question. I like that. Gina Longo's question, here it is. Do you have any tips on how we can figure out how to pinpoint and articulate the transformation that we can provide to future clients? Outstanding. All right, I love it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to wrap up with this one. Let me just say this really quickly. Barry, I'm going to do your question, Gina, but I want to do this really quick. No, I am not using Wirecast. Here, let me. I'm going to put the actual right link, Delisa, the one that you put in there. Here, hold on a second. I'm going to put this one in here because you get, if you use this one, you get some money off. So see if that link that just worked, that like longer link that I just put in there, see if the link that I put into chat actually works, because that will give you a discount. I was just talking via email to the guy that founded this company, and it's very good. And if you use that link, you get a little bit of money off. Okay, let me go back to your question, Gina, because I want to wrap up on this one. Oh, hang on. Where was it? There we go. Do you have any tips on how we can figure out how to pinpoint and articulate the transformation that we can provide to future clients? Yes. We don't have the time to do a longer discussion of copywriting, but let me just summarize it in a couple of ways. First of all, most business owners talk about them or what they're delivering instead of their client and the transformation, which is why I just want to honor you, Gina, for the way that you asked the question. The way that you asked the question was, do you have tips on how to pinpoint and articulate the transformation? That's a very important word, because it's clear that Gina's talking about her client, which is very, very helpful. Okay, so one of the ways to do it, so I'm going to give you a couple of ways to say things. And by the way, shameless product pitch. I have a product called the Secret Weapon. If you go to edrush.com/products, you'll see it's a communication product. That product is online for $14.97. I'm giving deals all week. Okay, so email me, support@edrush.com, and I will give you at least 50% off. Okay, it's a course on how to become a master persuader and communicator. So 2 different ways you can do it, Gina. One is start getting used to saying the following phrase: here's what this means to you. Here's what this means to you. Here's what this means to you. So I've got this product called the Secret Weapon, and here's what this means to you. By the time you're done, it's just 10 minutes a day for 21 days. By the time you're done, 10 minutes a day for 21 days, you will be a master communicator and persuader that can instantly get someone to say yes. That's what I mean about here's what this means to you. On one side, I was talking about a product, which is fundamentally a feature, right? I've got this product called the Secret Weapon. Feature, boring, boring, boring. Here's what this means to you. By the time you're done, 21 minutes a day, 21 days, 10 minutes a day, 21 days, you'll become a master persuader who can get almost anyone to say yes. That's a benefit. Okay, so the first one is, here's what this means to you. Okay, the second phrase that I want you to start practicing is using the word imagine. Okay, and this is a technique called future pacing, but I'm going to do it in a little bit more of a condensed format. What you do is you take the person that you're talking to and you take them into the future and you have them imagine things that are happening to them in the future, and then you bring them back into the present in the decision that they're making right now. It's a technique primarily used by therapists to help enact change in people's life, but it works really good for marketing. Okay, so it goes like this. Imagine it's 6 months from now. You look at your body in the mirror and you can't believe the transformation. You've lost not only the 10 pounds that you wanted to lose, but you've actually lost 15 pounds. You're starting to see some definition in muscles that you haven't seen for a while. But what's better is you're waking up earlier, you're going to bed later, and you feel great. When you sit down to eat meals, you're eating food that you frankly weren't sure that you were going to like, but you love now. And every time you eat, you get up and you feel better. You get a call from your kids who saw you last week and they say, I can't believe you, Mom. You look amazing. That's the kind of transformation that can happen in your life when you take action now. Okay. I'm going to pause and go backwards real quick because what I just did was a little bit of scripting, which is fundamentally what I love teaching. Okay. So I said, imagine, and it doesn't have to be 6 months, but imagine it's 6 months from now. So the person goes into the future 6 months, and then you start describing the things that they're seeing, hearing, and feeling, which is important. Don't have time to go through VAK, but you've got visual, auditory, kinesthetic. They're seeing, hearing, and feeling in the future, and you're putting someone in the future, and then you bring them back into the present, and you go, that's what can happen for you. That's the kind of transformation that can happen for you when you take action now. Did you catch that? So imagine is the present word, moving someone into the future. Describe the benefits in the future, bring them back. Okay, so just a couple different ways about describing that. Again, if you want more on that, email me and I'll give you a deal on the Secret Weapon product, because fundamentally it's a communication product. All right, cool. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Oh, Gina, thank you for that. Brilliant stuff. Thanks so much for answering my question. By the way, I keep targeting an hour for these shows, and we always go a little bit late, but that's okay. Hopefully we're having fun. Diana says, thanks, Ed. Fabulous script. And by the way, these show back up on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, so you can always go backwards into what we just did and replay it. Michael Fortin, my man, says, focus on the problem, fall in love with the problem. That's pretty good. Fall in love with the problem. That's right. Fundamentally, businesses solve problems. Which is why when I work one-on-one with somebody, the first question I usually ask after the first set of questions is always about their objectives that they want to accomplish. And then the next question I usually ask is, what's the problem you solve? Okay. Which is, by the way, it's a great consulting tool, is that simple question. What is the problem you solve? If you say, what is the problem you solve? And somebody starts talking about themselves again, you'll know that they have no idea how to market themselves, because when you say, what's the problem you solve? A good marketer will start talking about their market. They'll start talking about transformation. All right. Aubrey says, thanks again, Ed. You are amazing. Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss any of the comments. Good. I think I got everybody. All right, here's the dealio. So we're going to wrap up Bunker Bash for today. This, by the way, has been an awesome day. Thank you for the attention and time. Tomorrow, I'll be interviewing Perry Marshall, author of Evolution 2.0. You do not want to miss this. We're going to talk. I told you, Perry can look into the future as good as anyone that I know. And we're going to talk about we're going to go deeper on what's happening in this expert economy. And you're going to hear from a guy that I consider one of the top 5 smartest people that I know. All right, do me a favor really quickly. Whatever platform you're watching on, make sure you click the like button if you haven't done that. Click the share button. And if you are on YouTube, right here, right below you, right here, there's a little button that says subscribe. Click that. What that'll make sure happens is that you will get this in your feed right now. So some of you said you had a hard time trying to find this. Click that button. That will put it into your feed. And what I do is every day after the show is I create the next day's show, and that will show up in your feed. So if you're trying to search around, trying to find where Bunker Bash is, or even if you're trying to watch the replays, simply clicking that button right there will help you do that, okay? And it'll tell YouTube that you're interested in this content, because let's face it, I spent like 2 hours fishing around on YouTube. The stuff on there right now that's getting like 15 million views, you got to be kidding me. Like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, seriously, you have to be kidding me. Okay. So just doing that will tell YouTube, like, I kind of want to watch Ed stuff instead of some pig inside of Minecraft. All right. Okay. Listen, you are amazing. Okay. So go change the world. Jump on your phone today and live stream and say hello to everybody. Say something positive. We have an amazing world. You have an incredible immune system. You're going to make it. We're going to make it. And by the time we get done, you're going to be better, stronger, faster. And that's what the Bunker Bash is all about. All right. I appreciate you. I love you. And I like you. Let's go change the world. I will see you tomorrow for our episode with Perry Marshall, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. God bless. Be good. And I'll talk to you soon.